Pew study did a really interesting look into the different cable news outlets. They, in fact, included Al Jazeera as well because they're a new cable news outlet. And they looked into how often they ran positive stories about striking Syria versus negative stories about striking Syria, or talk about how there was no good options or how the Iraq war should make us more cautious. And they found a couple of fascinating things. First of all of cable news ran far more stories in favor of striking Syria than they ran stories opposing the strike. Let me show you the chart. Okay, and as you see there on the left-hand side, that's the biggest bar. Those are the ones that are pro-strike. The second one is the one that is against strikes, and you can see, of course, there's less stories there. And then the one talking about Iraq making us more cautious, even less so. And then finally, no good options, that's not very high at all. So when you turn on the media, mainstream media, including Al Jazeera, they're supposed to do things a little differently, but apparently not. Most of the stories you get are in favor of striking Syria. Now, what percentage of Americans believe we should strike Syria? 9%. 9% of us think we should go into Syria, but apparently the majority of the stories they see on their television sets is not representative of their opinion. It's representative of the establishment opinion. If the establishment says we're going, well, that's what TV is going to tell you. All right, now one more interesting fact about that. You saw one network there that spikes on all those charts. You see the one that had the most amount of pro-war stories at 64%? You want to know who that network is? That's MSNBC. It's not Fox News in favor of war. Since we have a Democratic president, it's MSNBC that does the most pro-war stories. Now, to be fair to MSNBC, you can see in the second part of that, they also did the most anti-war stories. So I guess they're covering the whole spectrum. And they do have real progressives, some at MSNBC, who presented that position. So that's good. So they did more of those as well. But as you also saw, their pro-war stories overwhelmed their anti-war stories. And I know that's a simple classification, that if you looked at any one of those segments, probably the conversation was more nuanced than that. But it's Pew study, it's a pretty good study, and it gives you a ballpark look into how they covered this. And apparently, almost all of cable news is far more supportive of strikes than the American people are. And fascinating enough, the network that was very against strikes or war when we had a Republican president seems a lot more open to that idea when we have a Democratic president.